Gillian Keegan.
Thank you, Chair. And I'd like to congratulate my honourable friend for Gloucester for securing this debate and for his excellent speech, in particular his focus on the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. The UK's trading future on the international stage is promising, and nowhere more so than within the Commonwealth. As a group of 54 nations, we are part of a collective that's comprised of 2.4 billion people, a third of the global population, occupying about a quarter of the world's landmass. By building on our relationships within the Commonwealth, we will further the goal of my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, to be a truly global Britain. The Commonwealth has strong foundations rooted in 7 decades of collaboration. It has helped support smaller nations develop, and it strengthens economies and the democratic institutions. And our collective economic strength is significant, a shared gross national income of more than $10 trillion, and internal Commonwealth trade is expected to grow to $1 trillion by 2020. As we seek to further develop new opportunities, we are doing so from a platform of shared histories, as in many cases we also have a common language and common legal structures. We should therefore have, in theory, fewer barriers to overcome when reaching agreements. It is already the case that 80% of the Commonwealth countries benefit from preferential access to the UK's market. And furthermore, the Royal Commonwealth Society highlighted that within the bloc there are already significant trade advantages. And in a recent study, they found that between 2 Commonwealth partners, transaction costs are 19% less than between non-Commonwealth nations, driven largely by language and legal systems. But when we look to bolstering our trading relations internationally, we need to do so strategically. And I'm pleased that the Department for Trade is working with many of our partners to lay down the basis for future trade agreements. However, we are limited by our capacity to broker deals. Free trade agreements are clearly an ambition, and rightly so. However, free trade agreements don't always meet expectations. In most cases, these deals are designed around goods. However, if we are going to capitalise on our competitive advantages, they will need to include service markets. And the reality is, for businesses that trade internationally, there are several non-tariff barriers that free trade agreements often don't address, such as licensing agreements, capital controls, ownership rules, etc. And the British Chambers of Commerce identified non-tariff barriers as the most important area of concern for business in non-EU third-party agreements. Yes, certainly.
Thank you. One of the difficulties that businesses have faced in recent years, particularly trading with places like Australia and New Zealand, has been the movement of personnel. And because we've had such a free and easy visa arrangement, or migration arrangements with Europe, it's been a problem trying to get movement from other countries, such as Australia and New Zealand. Would she agree with me that it would be an interesting idea to consider something like a realm visa, where we have easier access for people, where the Queen is the head of state, so that could include countries like Australia, New Zealand and Canada?
Yes, I do agree, and I think, as we design our immigration system which will meet the needs of our country, then obviously we won't have either artificial numbers or systems that don't actually meet the needs of our businesses and our skills agenda as well. So today the EU has or is negotiating trade deals with over 80% of Commonwealth countries, in part thanks to the efforts of the UK governments. So we must ensure that we develop bilateral agreements to replace them. Bespoke deals could do just that. Singapore, for example, is a tech business hub for the region and could be a potential gateway to other Asian countries for British businesses. Like finance, technology consolidates in hubs around talent and investment, and we already enjoy a prominent position in this sector, with 18% of global data flows passing through the UK, so there is opportunity for us to grow. And Singapore is currently finalising a deal with the EU, therefore we hopefully will have a foundation from which to work from that can be potentially more tailored to our national interests. Canada too has a basis from which to work with CETA. Furthermore, we are Canada's largest export market within the EU, and therefore there is greater mutual benefit to striking a deal. In 2015, the UK Commonwealth exports were £47.4 billion, with 5 larger economies of Australia, Canada, India, Singapore and South Africa accounting for 70% of our Commonwealth exports and 65% of our imports. Therefore, there is scope to expand our working relationships within the smaller developing Commonwealth nations. And the technology, regulation, standards and skill training can act as a gateway to greater investment and openness in developing economies and provide career opportunities for those large amounts of young people. The Commonwealth provides the UK with a great opportunity to further develop economic, diplomatic and cultural ties with nations that already have so much in common with us. As the Prime Minister said last year, we face new and unprecedented joint challenges, and we all have a responsibility to work together as partners to ensure that our Commonwealth has the institutional strength to face them. Our trading relationships, if executed strategically, will drive prosperity both here and throughout the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Hear, hear, hear.